Welcome to Hello Downtown, a podcast by Downtown Sioux Falls.
This is Hello Downtown, the podcast where we explore the people, the places, and the pulse of our city's core. I'm your host, Brandon Hanson, and every episode we dive into the stories shaping life in the heart of Sioux Falls. So whether you're downtown every day or just downtown at heart, let's jump in. Thank you so much for tuning into Hello Downtown. This is a special mayoral series where we're sitting down one-on-one with candidates for Sioux Falls Mayor. We invited all 5 candidates to participate, and soon you'll hear from 4 of them here. Each conversation builds on their responses from our March Mayoral Forum, which was co-hosted with AARP South Dakota. You can watch that forum on our YouTube channel or listen to episode 18 of this podcast. This is a core part of what DTSF does for the community and for downtown Sioux Falls. We are an advocacy organization, and our goal is just to educate as much as possible and bring to light just who these people are and what they could do for the city of Sioux Falls. Thank you so much for listening. Today we're joined by Greg Jamison, lifelong Sioux Falls resident, business owner, public servant with over 30 years as a local entrepreneur and experience on both city council right here in Sioux Falls and in the state legislature. Greg has spent much of his career working, building, and serving right here in the Sioux Falls community. Greg, welcome.
Welcome. Hello, downtown.
Yeah, I love it. Yes. Is there anything else you want to just tell the community about yourself, who you are as a human being before we start grilling you?
Sure. Well, currently I do serve as a state legislator in District 12, and I've been doing that. This is my 8th year. So currently elected official, and that term runs out in January. And so if I win, when I win, right? I should say.
When I win. There you go.
When I win, then I would need to resign my seat because there are still going to be some months afterwards, you know, from July to January, really, that somebody would need to be in my seat. And so I've joked with Mayor Paul Tinhagen because he lives in my district. I've said, hey, why don't we just switch? Well, let's just do it right now. Why wait? He didn't quite see all the humor in that. But so you're right. I have grown up here. I lived here all my life. You know, even where we're sitting now on Phillips Avenue, I used to ride my bike down here as a kid. I was one of those free range kids who could just ride my bike and all day be gone. In fact, I think if I was gone maybe a couple of days, my parents would notice, but all day gone, I was just gone riding.
That was normal.
Just normal. And so I have watched, you know, when Morales was down there before, you know, now it's Smithfield, but Falls Park was not a safe place to be. And we were cruising around all those buildings, hanging out, looking through stuff and jumping on little jumps, get too close to the water, all of that. And so I've seen Sioux Falls grow all of my life. And it's really been a great experience. I'm so proud. And it's really part of the reason I'm running is that proud feeling that I have about Sioux Falls, let alone our state, because I have that too. But Sioux Falls in general, just so much pride here. My family lives here. I'm one of 9 kids, and we've got a ton of brothers and sisters and cousins and nephews and nieces. Well, Sioux Falls is very important to me, and it's just in my heart. And I want to share this as well. My dad served before me about 16 or 20 years. I can't quite math it out, but I think it's 16 back in the old form of government with the commissioners and then on the city council. And I actually filled his seat right after him when he left. And so the Southwest District that I served in had a Jamison in there for almost, I don't know if it was 30 years. It was quite some time. And, well, it'd be 16 years, actually, because he had 2 terms. I had 2. So a lot of pride in service taught to me by my parents, probably like all of us. Their parents were a big influence, and my parents were the same. And so that's where my heart is. That's where my desire comes from, and the willingness to serve the community.
Yeah. Wow. What a background. And just to know that politics has been even passed down just in your family. We
used to joke about this, that, you know, we didn't talk about the Packers or the Vikings around the kitchen table. It was, is asphalt better than concrete? That, because my dad was the public works director. commissioner. And so there's some science to it. And I've got to learn a lot about things in city government. I mean, I used to play around in City Hall when I was a kid because Dad was working there, and we were screwing around in the pews back then. And so anyway, a lot of history here, and it's really fun. It's just a great place.
Well, I don't want people to tune out now and be distracted from all these important questions I have to ask you. So you have to answer asphalt or concrete. Which one's better?
Here's where
you might lose votes, though. Be careful.
No, yeah, right. So the trick is in the intersection piece where the car is actually turning its wheels, and there's kind of a sideward pressure. That's where you want concrete. After the car gets going straight, down the middle of the road, then you can use asphalt, and that works really good. So it's a combination of both.
Is asphalt cheaper and more slippery?
Well,
is that why?
I don't know if it's no. It's just because it is cheaper. Yes, that part is true, and it's easier to replace if it wears down or starts to crack and get potholes and things. You can grind it down and put a new layer down. Where concrete just doesn't have that. But so for those big heavy equipment vehicles on main thoroughfares too, that matters that you probably would want concrete because it can handle the weight better. Yeah. So it's a mix. I don't have any real strong preference, but I think doing it the best we can first time really matters because then we don't have to come back and redo it anytime soon. We can get it done right the first time.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, let's kick off these questions. I've got a few quick hitters just to get us going so that folks can get to know you better as a candidate and as a person, but then shift again more into specific issues and follow-ups from our forum that we held back in March. But there's been a couple other engagements, just a few that you've been involved in. Thank you, by the way, for being here in the middle of a very busy campaign season.
You bet.
All right. So just to start us off, what's a moment in your life or career that has shaped how you make decisions?
Good question. I would bet it really is. At my experience on the city council, there's a lot of things that have happened while I was there for 8 years, and then I've compared it to my time in the state legislature, and being a city councilor is harder than a state legislator. The voters, the people who you're answering yes or no or deciding the use of their land is sitting 10 or 12 feet from you. And they can look at you right in the eye and say, mouth a certain word or two that, their displeasure. And so that interface is really different than it is in Pierre. But there were times when the chambers were full of mad, angry people, and they weren't happy about what we were going to do or wanting to do. And we had to vote yes, because in deciding all the details and determining the facts, we knew that it was the best thing for the city going forward. But we were going to make some people very mad. And so, I think that time sequence, frankly, those 8 years, there was such an enormous amount of change that occurred in the city and new things that I guess it was that experience on the council, frankly, that shaped. So going forward then now to Pierre, and you're making some decisions, but there's nobody sitting nearly right in front of you. You have to think of things different. And the time cycle in Pierre is so much faster and different. In Sioux Falls, obviously you get the first reading, second reading, and then you can even pause and do other things. Well, in the legislature, you've only got 40 days or so to get your work done. So oftentimes things died and failed. The city council, though, had opportunities to revive ideas and things. And so I would just have to narrow it down. Sorry for a long answer, but those 8 years on the city council were fundamental.
Yeah. And I know on your campaign materials, your website, you talk a lot about making decisions that are for tomorrow or for the future.
Right.
And sometimes that includes some short-term pain.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
And then what happens too, you're in the grocery store, picking up milk or something.
Yeah, because they're your neighbors, right?
And they're your neighbors, and inevitably you're in the aisle trying to figure out, which bread to get. And somebody comes up and they give you the eye like not happy. And generally the people who are happy just generally don't stop and say, hey, thanks a lot for everything you're doing. Good job. It's the angry people. And so you feel it everywhere you go. I felt it in a lot of places that I went, I should say. And so that connection with the public really became pretty personal. And it's really stuck with me for a long time, and it has. And so.
Yeah. Okay. Question number 2. If you were sitting down with someone who doesn't follow local politics at all, why would you explain why you're running for mayor in a way that would matter to their day-to-day lives?
I would express, I suppose, the idea that my heart is here. I mean, my soul is here. My history is here. I couldn't care more about any place than Sioux Falls with all of that and the family that I have here. It truly is in my heart to serve. I've taken a great pride in what I've done and the things I've been a part of. My dad has passed, and he is the one who really gave this kind of experience to me and helped me learn that. So there's just a wonderful history I have with my dad about all things related to Sioux Falls. And so it's just in my heart. I don't know any other way to say it. I'd tell you there's a lot of reasons that I think I would be the best candidate, but for somebody who really doesn't follow it, I hope they would get to know that there's a guy that's running who absolutely loves this town, is so proud of it, and just wants to serve. So I've used this line too to others because this is a good question. And I've said, Sioux Falls is like that undefeated Super Bowl champion coming back to the Super Bowl, and they need a new head coach. Who doesn't want in on that? I mean, I am excited as can be about the future of our city, the opportunities, the optimism that's here. All of that excitement is just energizing to me. And so it's like, who wouldn't want to be a part of this team? And that's a lot of my energy about it too.
Yeah. So, okay, let's flash forward. We've got Mayor Jamison. We're finishing your last term as mayor.
Wow.
Of Sioux Falls. I know we just zoomed forward 8 years. What would people out in the community say? These 3 things were successful because Jamison was our mayor.
3 things. I've eliminated all the other things and narrowed it down to the 3 successes. Well, let's just start with one, I guess. First is that people could see every neighborhood in our city become safer. I think there's a good, strong sense of safety that we have right now, but we need to go further even. And some of that would be hiring more police officers to ensure that we have the full staffing requirements that we need, ensure that those officers have the respect, the support from our community. So safety just becomes like, some people talk about there's these awards, for the best economy or the best, fastest growing downtown or whatever, place to retire. I'd like to see us be recognized as the safest community in the state, safest community in the region, and that everybody truly feel that way. Okay, there's one. And then the second, let's just say every traffic light in this community is a smart traffic light. I mean, we're way past this idea that these lights just are on a timer and they just cycle through no matter what. There's a networking that we can get in place better and fuller. And so imagine this, the future is, after Jamison, that all these traffic lights are wired together, synced, so that at 8 in the morning or 7:30 in the morning, traffic just zooms. You're not sitting at a red light and there's no other cars coming. That's another goal I have. The other is the public trust. So part of my goal is to create some fiscal responsibility about all the things that we spend our money on. And so when you can build transparency and trust into everything we're spending money on, it just builds value into everything we do. And so in the future, when the city government is asking to do something, the public feels like, well, you know what? I don't really understand all this, but I know and trust what those guys are doing is in the best interest of our community. So if I could elevate that trust factor, that would be the third piece that I would want to have as a part of my history.
It's a kind of a big 3.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
There you go. So you've talked a lot about how you spent time both in business and in public service. I think that's very evident. What's something about running a city that you think people overcomplicate?
Well, that they overcomplicate.
Or maybe it is just complicated.
There is a feeling that the public gets when they come to a public meeting and they testify in opposition of what's being proposed. And there's this perception that the council is not listening to them. And the reality is there's a lot of things that have happened behind the scenes and in other places, and educating those counselors to get to a vote decision, even the mayor. And so the public doesn't get to see that kind of stuff, and they see it as a pre-cooked decision, if you will, and that their involvement isn't necessary or warranted anymore because the decision's already done. So why come? What we've got to do to make it probably a little more simple is to illustrate better all of those decisions and talking points and places we've been to and other meetings that have helped us determine this factor. So having been there, I know that there's been meetings that have occurred, and I said, well, we didn't even tell them that we had 6 other meetings about this. We just took it for granted that they knew it. And so I don't know, I guess if I'm answering your question, the idea is that the public involvement should be simple. The process should be clearly understood. And, one of my goals as a part of this administration is to make City Hall the easiest, friendliest place to do business for every citizen who comes to the City Hall for any reason, whether it's a parking ticket or paying your water bill, getting a building permit. Sioux Falls should just be like the best, easiest, like a hotel almost, if you can imagine that hotel that you go to and everybody's just anxious to give you the best service and yes, ma'am, yes, sir, and all of that. I think we need to bring more of that to the city and make it more friendly to the public who interface with the city. So that complicated nature that, maybe perhaps it's too hard to do anything with the city. There's too many obstacles. There's too much red tape. If we can eliminate a lot of that, then I think we're making headway.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had the joy of attending a lot of city council meetings, more recently than not, but I've heard folks kind of expressing that pre-cooked notion and that idea that you're talking about. And I found myself reacting very opposite and thinking, I hope they have thought about this before tonight and they're not making a decision after hearing about it for 30 seconds or a city employee gave a 5-minute, very data-filled presentation that's sometimes difficult to listen to because it's just a bunch of data. I always hope that they've actually done some research and talked to a few folks. Yeah, they're very good at it.
Yeah, there's a process to it all, and there's a nervousness that we always felt going up to making those decisions. Like land use changes when somebody's asking for a zoning change. What we would do and what my dad instilled with me is that you go look at it, go drive by it. It's not that hard. It's your job. Go see it and go get a feel for it. Don't just rely on a map from the city to tell you that, oh, well, here's the line, here's the borders, and where setback is this, that kind of stuff. You got to work it. You got to do a good job. And I'd share this too, just as, if you don't mind, is the concept of having somebody who has served on the city council step into the mayor's role creates a huge new opportunity for some communication and some structure to things that haven't existed ever before because nobody has ever served as mayor who was once a councilor. And so there's a lot of things that can change. The whole public input piece has an opportunity for changing that. The way that these meetings get expressed to the public, the marketing and letting people know that we're having a meeting, for goodness sakes. It's not a vacuum. People can figure that out, but we can do better. State law requires a minimum amount of certain things to happen, but thinking about it now, stepping back, I know there's opportunities to do it better. We don't have to just rely on the minimum. We should really go better and bigger, if you will, and include more people and hopefully get more involvement. And like I said, building that trust with everything we do.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit more about your number one bullet point on your campaign. And you've already brought it up, is public safety.
Oh.
So I want to dig into that a little bit, maybe more granularly if we can. When you look at Sioux Falls today, can you just talk about where you see the biggest gaps and what would you want to move on in the first 100 days as mayor?
first 100 days is really about probably changing the city budget. So the budgeting process for the police department, parks, and streets and roads and everybody's budgets need to be tweaked, and so adding some more money to the police department so that we can hire and afford to pay for new officers so we can get fully staffed. So look for that to be an initiative right away, supporting those officers so I've said this and I get in trouble every time, but I'm still going to say it because I want to illustrate the point. That feeling that we have about firefighters as the hero, who doesn't want to be a firefighter? That feeling. And I want to bring that back over to the police department. Those guys who wear a bulletproof vest to work, for goodness sakes, they really deserve that appreciation from a community. And I know there's a lot of that goes on, but we've had other communities around near us that wanted to defund the police, for instance. We just can't let that sentiment get into our community. So we've got to keep pushing, and making sure that we don't let that happen here. So supporting those guys and kind of creating that hero status for them. We're not taking it from the firefighters. We're just sharing it, a little bit. I want that to be a part of the initiative that you see. But there are parts in our city, the neighborhoods aren't as safe as the neighborhood I live in, is really good. I'm safe. I feel it. I know it. But there are other neighborhoods in our city who don't have that. And I want those people who live there to have the feeling I have about my neighborhood. So it takes educating them, improved lighting, patrolling, presence of those officers matters. And so those kinds of initiatives, I think, is what you see: more money and more support for officers.
Fantastic. I'm going to take a big left turn here and go back to our forum. We had some questions in there about the arts, and you gave a comment about potholes, and everybody laughed, and you were laughing, and it was kind of a fun little moment, to be honest. But I want to reframe that up a little bit, just from how DTSF views the arts in particular. There's a lot of folks that work here and live here and play here that love the arts personally, but from an economic development side of that angle. So when you think about what makes a city feel vibrant and safe, even in the neighborhoods, you talk about lighting, where do things like arts, culture, and public spaces fit into that feeling of safety?
Yeah, good. I did joke about, arts and culture are not in my wheelhouse very well, but I do like colorful socks, so I have some.
You do have some on right now, and they're phenomenal.
I have some interest there, and my mom was a fabulous artist. So I guess she had all of that and didn't pass it on to me. But I can tell through even just with the sculpture walk, which has been great, and developing. I know, and I visited plenty of other cities and places where they've got all kinds of artwork and murals and other things. The Love It, for instance. That happened when I was on the council back then. And I couldn't believe it, the deal that they were trying to sell us on. And I go, well, we must be missing a page of this proposal because it's just too good. So I can tell a good deal when I see it. And that one was a great deal for us. And it has turned out to be even bigger than I ever thought, frankly. Honestly, it really is just great. So I know there's a vibrance that gets created. And all those people who come downtown to experience a concert or do something, they trickle around and they go downtown, other parts of town and downtown and shop and have dinner or drinks and things. And it's just value to the whole thing and the whole good experience. So I know there's a value to it and I can see it. It creates just a vibrancy about a community. You can tell other cities that you go to and there's nothing going on. It's like, oh my God. So it's like a bachelor pad. I'll say it like this. Have you ever, I don't know about you, but if you've ever lived alone as a guy, there's no colors in the house. There's no flowers, pictures, anything. And you can walk in and say, okay, you must be a bachelor. But so the idea is that, I know it adds value to the community and I will support it and I do like it. I'm just not, like I say, I'd rather probably talk about concrete and asphalt.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's okay.
All right.
Yeah. So now you've worked closely with city government, of course, just with your history, but even more recently with your role in state, and just understand how relationships kind of drive everything. And so you've gotten to know DTSF a little bit more, I think, in the last couple of months. But from your perspective, what role should an organization like Downtown Sioux Falls play in the broader economic development of the city?
Well, what you do here in downtown is just vitally important to Sioux Falls. And so keeping that relationship positive, working together really matters. So if you had not been here, and if you weren't here today, then every pressure that's existing down here for a business that's closing or vagrancies and lighting challenges and garbage and all that kind of stuff, if nobody was monitoring or managing those kinds of things, you would probably see a donut hole get created in our city because people would start to vacate and they would go find a better, easier place to do business than downtown. And pretty soon now your downtown is dead. And then what do we have? And so it's important for all of us to make sure that our downtown is always protected, always growing, always getting tweaked and focused and dreamed about. And so having you guys here is really important to the city as we go forward. And I hope that relationship continues as I take over as mayor.
Yeah, there you look at that smile. So, the Smithfield announcement's been big too in downtown, and we don't have to get too far into that because it's decades of work, and we're talking about the next 4 years right now. But do you think that the relationship with the city and DTSF has an opportunity to expand because of that opportunity beyond just maintenance of the district?
Oh yeah, I think the opportunities are fantastic as you go north from here, right where we're sitting, frankly. And expanding downtown Sioux Falls only makes sense. That stewardship that you guys have for the entire downtown. I used to know better the boundary lines, and if I understand it, you're on Minnesota Avenue down to what, like 6th or 8th?
We go all the way up to Falls Park Drive. Yeah,
Falls Park Drive.
Our ambassadors don't service Falls Park because you have a parks department, but
sure. Yeah. So as the city moves in the opportunity of the Smithfield vacation there, I can see you guys expanding there and even a little east, as the viaduct comes in and other things change over there with the stuff that's happening with the river line. You guys really have a growing opportunity in front of you. You are not shrinking. And that's a great sign for us as a community. So I see that your boundaries will expand. Now, I know you generate revenue from all the people who are inside the district. And I was a part of on the council back then when they were setting this up. And they were some landowners or property owners who didn't want to be a part of this. And I think they've come around. So I know there's resistance from some people to be a part of that because there's a cost involved. But I think when you reflect on what's happened and what the success has been here, expanding that, you've got a great track record and serviceability. So I think the opportunity is just enormous for you guys.
Yeah. So you're talking about the Business Improvement District, the Downtown Sioux Falls specific Business Improvement District, because there's another one.
Right. I
know you're involved in that one with Experience Sioux Falls. That's more hotel related,
right?
Visitor funded. Ours is different and unique just in the sense that locals are paying it. It's the property owners within the boundary.
Yep.
Sometimes often it's getting passed down through triple net leases and things like that to business owners, but it's all about the business community and support of them. But what we've done with it, we created the ambassador program, which is about 5 or 6 years old now. The guys out on the street in the red shirts, cleaning up trash, graffiti, doing some homeless outreach, not technically within our scope of services, but we're there 7 days a week, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So we're the first sort of responders in downtown, all with the intent of reducing burden on city resources, whether that's police or maybe it's the city doesn't now have to pay a private contractor to remove trash. And then we go outside the boundary a little bit because the city funds us as well to just help that social service network over on 8th Street with Bishop Dudley House and the Banquet and UGM and others. But if we can just focus on that ambassador program a little bit and just get down to the street level view, if you will, how do you view that effort with the ambassador program and all the services that I just mentioned? And how do you see the city and DTSF continuing to partner on things like safety and cleanliness and overall experience for the community?
Yeah, very good. The ambassadors, what I hear from the business owners downtown, love it. It's a great interface between them and the city and law enforcement in a lot of ways. Or the city services, like you say, the individuals who are maybe loitering around a business, and instead of calling the police, now they can call the ambassadors. And if things work out well, then now we haven't had to have our police officers come down there for kind of a repeat offender guy who's just always, and then the police can focus on other things. That's a great opportunity for the city. And we know it's getting done for less than what we would have to pay if we were the city doing it. So that has been well received by everybody that I've talked to about it, frankly. And so continuing that makes only sense for us to save money. It creates pride in what we're doing down here, that you're being successful. Now, let's just say you weren't. I mean, and all these ambassadors were just hanging out at the bar. I'm just saying, I'm not saying that they're doing that. And it wasn't productive. It wouldn't take long for that to be figured out and go, hey, this is a joke. But what you've been doing has been well received and efficient and effective. And so I would want to continue that. I think the opportunities are, just looking out the window right where I'm at, it's clean. It's nice. So when others who don't spend as much time downtown as us come down here for that first time or maybe their third time, it's great. Every time it's great. It's great instead of, oh my gosh, it was just terrible down there. Nobody picks up trash and all these hassles. There's no green trees. There's no flowers. There's no art, all that. So maintaining that, like what you've been doing, is just thumbs up for you guys.
Yeah. And they're not sitting at the bar. I know it's hypothetical. I just was going to share that we actually implemented a new tracking system this past year. We've been using it for about 12 months now, but it's called GIA, J-I-A. And we track every movement of every person on staff and are logging every single task, whether that's an interaction with a visitor or it's they picked up a mattress and took care of it. Last year alone, it was over 200,000 pounds of trash that was removed from downtown.
That's amazing.
Which is just hard to even put my brain around. 17,000 pieces of gum removed from the sidewalks. Yes, they counted everyone.
So just speaking of that, I have been in places where you walk outside the door. I don't know where it is. Gas stations have a lot of it too. It's amazing the amount of gum that people just spit out. And then it creates this little brown black spot after it gets a little dirt on it.
It doesn't leave on its own.
And you have to scrape it. I've seen it. So yeah.
Yep. Or graffiti or getting leaves when they fall in the fall and autumn time. We remove them.
So speaking of graffiti, let me ask you a question. How are you guys handling that? Because there have been times in the past, generally, where I've seen that, but I haven't seen it lately.
Yeah.
You guys do that?
We do that. Yep. So we have all the equipment to take care of it. So if it's large, we have power washers and trailers and vehicles to go take care of it. We have training so our team knows how to deal with it. And then if it's small by hand, we have certain chemicals that we use that we just have found the right stuff. And even the parks department or the police will call us when they find something and we'll take care of it. Again, everything we do is a shared service model. So it should reduce resource burdens on property owners, visitors, and the city. And so it's by hand or it's by power washing.
Do you see it trending? Down, like the number of places and times you have to do it? Is it getting lower?
It's not as much as I thought it would be. In 1 year, there's probably about 500 to 600 instances that we're taking care of. And sometimes we count, a sticker or they call it a handbill. You staple the piece of paper to a light pole or something. We're removing all of that too. So
Well, it's just something fun to track, like with the city, it certainly tracks police calls. And I wonder kind of where that was.
Yeah. Yep. No, big or small, we'll take care of it. And our goal is to get rid of it same day so that it doesn't create that broken window effect and keeps going. And yeah, it just, you never know. And sometimes it's Sharpie, sometimes it's spray paint or a sticker.
Well, I've got, I just know we went for a little ride in a Corvette with the top off, cruising through downtown. And there is just this cleanliness and comfortable, safe feeling. Now it's middle of the day and a nice sunny day. I get that. But there's a lot of people who cruise down Phillips Avenue and you're sitting out there, and you're just enjoying it. The cars are just cruising through because they want to see it. And I know that it matters to have flowers and well kept up frontages and all that seating out there. It's a great place to come. And that cruising effect that I've been guilty of doing just because.
You're doing the loop.
Somebody
get him.
So I used to be on that. I used to be that guy, but not anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, let's zoom out a little bit. When you think about Sioux Falls as a whole, what are 2 or 3 things that really define our identity as a community?
It always has come down to the people. There's an energy here about taking care of what we have, working harder than others. I think when Sioux Falls was started back in the beginning, it was some kind of a sanctuary for people to get divorced. Do you read that too?
Yeah, divorce capital of the world. Most of that material is over here at the Old Courthouse Museum if you want to see it.
Yeah, well, I just remembered it as thinking in a funny way. And then you think of the prison, up on the hill. And I've even tried to think about why would they put that right there? And back then in that territorial days, they must have wanted to find a high ground that they could defend amongst anybody who could try to come and get somebody out. That must have been the reasoning. But geez, what a great lookout. But, other things that define the city is just this willingness to grow. So in Pierre, I get, when I'm in Pierre for the legislative session, there's legislators from all over the state, and there's an enormous amount of jealousy about Sioux Falls and its growth, all the restaurants, all the concerts and things that happen here. They are envious of our city, and that creates that pride piece that I've been talking about a little bit. And so I think that enormous growth of defying the odds and just continuing to grow and diversifying our incomes and our economic positions with the financial industries that are here now and other manufacturing. We used to be a meatpacking town, I suppose, back in the day, but we have just kept going and going. And it probably relates back to the leadership of people who served in the community, all the people who have said, hey, well, wait a minute, we need to think long-term about this. What should we be doing? And then all of a sudden there's a good plan and we start following it and we build more homes and more people live here, all that stuff. Plus the Sioux River, having that run through our city, there's only a few towns that I know of in the country that don't have a city or their city doesn't have a river flow through it. So developing that, those river greenway improvements that we've done over the years, continuing on with that. Just a real quick story. My wife moved to San Antonio, Texas, and we spent an enormous amount of time on the river walkway and just crazy amount of time that we would spend there. And it was just awesome. And so bringing that here and seeing that do that same thing has just been wonderful. So all I guess I'm trying to say is there's been efforts on all fronts of the city to keep it growing. We weren't just so committed to just one thing and then became pigeonholed as that kind of a city. We're really diverse in a lot of ways with opportunities for employment for people, a place to start a business, raise a family, all good things. But it was really probably the people who were here long before us who have all stepped in. The philanthropy effort that we have going on, I think that's pretty unusual. You don't see that everywhere. That's amazing. That is so big. T. Denny Sanford's a big deal. Holy smokes. And then you get others who've been involved in other decisions regarding bringing water supply to our city. being able to grow like that. Quality staff and people, Mark Cotter in Public Works, guys like that. Mike Cooper, planning director before. All of that effort just collectively has allowed us to grow and be vibrant. So I just have to settle on it's really the people are really the magic.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I actually wanted to kind of talk a little more specifically about the engineering team as well, and just priorities that DTSF has gotten involved in last year. So we asked a question at our forum about the viaducts, and I think I don't know that our question was narrow enough because most people kind of focused on the development opportunity around the viaduct. So I want to bring it into just the specific bridge a little bit if we can, because it's just a major priority for the downtown community. The viaduct project has, of course, been described as a once-in-a-century opportunity because it will not be replaced again for another 100 years and hopefully longer than that. But just one example of a larger infrastructure decisions that we continue to see and deal with. So as the mayor, you're setting expectations for the director of engineering. How do you think about guiding them so projects in and around downtown prioritize safety, economic vitality, and traffic flow?
Yeah, it's really almost a conflict. So, the South Dakota Department of Transportation's goal really is to move cars safely and efficiently through their roadways. And what I think a lot of us would probably want is those people who are coming over the viaduct to slow down, look around, stop and buy something, hang out, not just travel through, right? And I know you know that and would want that. So as the city goes, we want to make sure it's safe, that it's built in the proper fashion so that, we can eliminate pedestrian hazards. So the piece where we conflict probably is the Department of Transportation is really just about moving cars, and the city's perspective should be about how is that going to impact our downtown, and making sure we don't just create a bridge that goes all the way through town and nobody stops or can get off. We don't want that, but it's just got to be probably blended pretty good so that it works. There are, there's a lot of talk about the Riverline District on the other side of the river, and getting people across that active rail line and the river is difficult. And the designs that I've seen only have people walking next to the roadway. And that's probably because of efficiency and abilities for the Department of Transportation to build something that works and can be maintained. If there was a pedestrian-friendly walkway over that, well, that might be seen as more friendly and creating economic opportunities on the other side of the river. But, that's pretty expensive. And then you've got safety of managing an overpass like that or just people wandering through. So there's all I really want to say is it's a lot of conflict, frankly. It's not the same as other economic opportunity areas because, they just want to move traffic and safe and efficient. So, I think there's a meeting coming up next in the middle of May sometime, I think is one of the final meetings about it. And so at that time, I'll try to be there. They've already gone through a lot of planning and places and probably bidding on what it's going to cost and determine. I know they're down to a couple designs, I think, at least. And so just being engaged, and I think the Public Works Department is really engaged and having an ear about the value. And I know they've got an ear about the value of downtown and everything involved in that. And that whole thing impacts those one-ways across the city as well, the downtown area, and even part of Pettigrew Heights, as I think about it. And there's a lot that gets impacted by that. So as long as we still have good people, like I know we do in public works and engineering, I think bridging that communication piece will happen to the best that we can do.
Yeah, and we do have great people in public works. You've already mentioned Mark Cotter, but even Andy Berg and Troy on the team, they're all just have been super open to feedback, especially from our organization, but from the downtown community, and trying their best to work with about 7 different things they have no control over. Right. Not these non-negotiables with environmental and with railroads, but we're going to keep asking for pedestrian inclusion and slower traffic, and getting more people to be downtown as a destination.
And as we think about the viaduct, the part of the challenge is, in a general bigger picture is with the Smithfield site and Russell and Rice and that North Drive, there's some connectivity issues there that if somebody was really just trying to get from the east to the west or west to the east side of town, there are other pathways to do it. And if we close them off and funnel them through here, now they're going to ask that maybe we remove parking on different places or do something to make it faster for more people to get through. And so we need to have those other places available, new pathways created so that the people who are coming here are focused to the perimeter of the downtown area, and we can invite them better instead of trying to just move them through. So there's a lot of bigger picture on all of this to make it all work. But that bridge, remember that parking ramp that was over the river?
Yeah.
That was torn down?
There's a picture of it right here.
Oh yeah, still there. So that whole concept was an idea to build a parking area over a space that wasn't and or couldn't be used for other development.
Yeah.
They just, it was amazing to think, let's just build it over the river. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we don't eliminate any tax revenues from property taxes, and we create anyway, just amazing how they were thinking back then and maximizing. So that's that kind of thinking that we need and continuing so that we can create bigger opportunities at other places too.
Certainly. So throughout all of your answers and even just right away out of the gun, you were talking about engagement and just the public input process and being able to bridge that between your experience as city councilor and potentially the mayor now. What does an effective public input process actually look like?
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, so one of the things I just passed was a part of passing, I should say, was House Bill 1245, which allows municipalities to essentially pay for capital improvement projects, and they won't have to go borrow it. And so there's just a lot of money that we can save without borrowing it. And part of that process, though, requires the creation of a capital improvement board. And that used to be in place. We used to have that. And I think it was Huther who eliminated it. But that brought together people from all over the community to a board that would then review all of our capital improvement ideas, and they would lay out their priority list. So at that table, I remember being there at these big conference tables of all these interested people of our community, good leaders, people who wanted to help and be a part of this discussion, long-term vision thinkers, and they'd come up with a capital improvement plan, and it was supported by this board. So I want to bring that board immediately. Paul hasn't done it yet because it is it'll be law in July, but he's kind of just going to let the new person take that position. But that's one of the things first I want to do is get that board established so that I can bring individuals from all around the city together to think about the best next steps going forward. So including those others is an opportunity for us to ask for them to come together. And currently, those other decisions about our capital plan are made by the city directors and the mayor and the council on their vision. But in inviting more people to the table, I think is what happens where bigger ideas come to light and opportunities get created. Philanthropy comes in all of a sudden. And so the energy is great. Now, the public input piece at the council meetings has turned into a challenge. I have been reaching out to those individuals who are routinely there every week and laying out their grievances. And I'm trying to figure out a way to invite them in to the mayor's office, if you will, and say, look, what is going on? What do you want? What are you trying to? And I know from a lot of them, what I've heard is they don't listen to us. They don't listen. And I said, well, you can't call them jerks every week and then expect them to be warmly and welcoming your comments. You just can't. We got to work this together. Both of us have to give it. And so I'd really like to find a way to bring them in, one-on-one, if you will, sit around a table like what we've got here, have a coffee, whatever, a lunch, and say, okay, now what's going on? Well, I'm just mad because, in my neighborhood, the garbage never gets picked up. Why can't my neighborhood be as nice as everybody else's? Well, okay, where do you live? Let's think about that and just have some one-on-one. But the cankerousness of it all that's been kind of developing needs to get trimmed, if you will. And it needs to come from both sides. And it just needs to be a one-on-one. We're regular people. I mean, I know there's a nervousness and a gotcha kind of feel that they want to stick you. I know that. I've sat up there. And that's the value of having somebody who served on the council become mayor, is to take all that collectively together and say, look, we can do this better. Come on. I've seen this be like this for years. It doesn't have to be like this. We don't need to have this. And we can, so including them, recognizing them, answering their questions. There's a lot of that where they kind of ask you questions while you're up there, but it's not a back and forth conversation. And so after the meeting, though, what if we said, hey, look, you had these 6 questions, let's just let's work through that with Public Works or with the parks or the planning. And then all of a sudden they go, hey, well, geez, they did listen. And then you say, hey, for the next time, if you got those 6 questions, just call me and we'll go through them then. So you don't have to come to the public input section of the council meeting to air your grievances. You can call me. And so developing some of those relationships is just necessary. And I hope to do that.
So where can people go to learn more about you if they want to hear a little more than just this short podcast?
The easiest way is the JamisonForMayor.com website. That's just the best place. Probably Facebook too, but I would still steer people to the website.
Well, just want to say thank you for stepping up and being willing to run. I think that takes a lot of courage and a lot of effort and time and money as well. And so thank you for that. Thank you for spending some time with me today to allow people to get to know you a little better. And for everyone listening, don't forget, by the time this is out and you're listening to it, absentee voting would have already been started. And election day is June 2nd. Please vote.
Thank you, Brandon.
This is Hello Downtown.